Oh, send it to me.
Yeah, I did. That's not both, because then I'm sure she'll use the other one.
You sent me your cover letter too, or?
I didn't. You want it?
Yeah,
Okay. It is 9 a.m. and I'm going to call the meeting of the Codington County Board of Commissioners to order. It is Tuesday, December 29th, 2020. It's Pledge of Allegiance. I think we'll have Jamie lead us today.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 2, call for public comment. Actually, I'm going to back up. We are streaming live, and if you have a cell phone, if you'd want to silence that. Thank you. Call for public comment. We will still take phone calls from individuals that are not able to come in and about items that are not on the agenda, just under advisement. The 2 phone numbers are 882-6248 and 882-6297. Item number 3, conflict of interest items. Is there any on the agenda for any commissioners?
No.
All right. Item number 4, action to approve the December 29th, 2020 agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Van Duzen, second by Gable. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 5, action to approve the minutes of the December 22nd, 2020. Motion by Johnson,
A second.
second by Gable. Any additions, corrections? We had everybody's name spelled correctly. Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 6, were we going to have Luke or Todd?
Luke's on.
Okay.
Luke and
So I guess we want to mention Luke Mueller with First District, and our zoning officer will join us this morning. Was Todd going to for item number 9?
thought I saw him on there. Luke, is Todd going to join us?
Maybe
I don't think so. It's just going to be me.
just you. Okay, that will be fine. All right, then we'll move on to item number 6, action to approve a grant agreement, and we'll have Jamie update us on how that's going. Good morning, Jamie.
Good morning.
Right.
Okay, currently I've worked with our state's attorney's office and drafted a letter to go back to the state for the termination of the contract, as it is their plan, and then they find the consultant or the contractor to move forward with this as a facilitator of the whole agreement. On the emergency management side, there's other counties that have kind of done the same thing, where we wait a response, but currently comes out of the Office of Preparedness and Planning in the Department of Health with Division and Regulation.
Okay.
So what we've done is we're going to see if they rewrite us a different contract form, and see if they come up with a consultant within that time. Right now, I wait that response. So that's where it's going to sit. Hopefully I hear something if it's this week, but it kind of sounds like some of the folks are gone until the 4th. So we'll see what they bring back to us as far as that's going to lay. That'll take maybe a different, if they find that contractor or rewrite something. Right now it's just waiting for a response to see what they will do with us. The plan is there. It's been in existence since 2005. It's exercised. It could run functionally and totally with the former contractor. So
Do you have a copy of that letter that you sent to Karen?
I can get it to you.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'd like to see it.
That was going to be my question. The current contract expires when?
It may have.
It
already.
may have.
Yep.
So there's no issue if there's a period where there's no contract.
Not that I'm aware of, and that's kind of the answers I want. Funding, they would come to the table working with their channels as the vaccines for COVID come out currently. Ours per se is more just on the planning and preparedness
Sure.
side of it, as me being named solely as a contact or contractor. And I'm not that medical professional.
Yeah, consultant. Yeah.
So hopefully they find a consultant and rewrite it with whoever that is, or give us the power. Previous looking at what former EM has done, we pay that channel through our office, and I hope that's what they write again, or they'll solely directly deal with that contractor. And then that funding will be
Good.
consulted.
And so, I don't know if you've explained, like in Day County, their EM does not, or they don't sign that contract, but the funding still comes
Brown
to them.
County, yeah,
or
they
there's
go
Brown.
directly, the way I understand theirs, which is also a regional pod, entails 5 counties up there. They deal directly with the contractor. And that's how they're.
The state does. Who deals directly with, so are you saying that the consultant, you mean?
The consultant,
Okay,
the contract
right.
gets rewritten to the contract.
Okay, as opposed to the county. Okay,
Right.
yeah.
And the commission doesn't ever sign that contract.
Rather than the EM personal.
Yeah.
So they've been doing it for
Yeah.
a number of years.
They use that same kind of language though for the nurses contract. It's, well, I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
See what they
Yep.
say, but
I don't think anything's in jeopardy as far as a pod being operational. That thing has been in existence for years. And that's how it's meant to run, you know.
Sure. I'll keep us in the loop.
Absolutely.
You will.
Appreciate the heads up on that.
All right.
While you're here, why don't we go down to that 16 discussion possible action resolution on ban open burning? I think we're good.
I think
Everything's
we're
going to
good.
get a little wet.
I'm going to start working with our county fire chiefs, fire departments, and a couple probably out of the Watertown Fire Department. And we're going to kind of go through that. So I
Tweak
hope
that.
within the next 30 days that I get something revised
Right.
on that, maybe a little different perspective of what we can do and what we can't do.
Good.
All right.
So
So are we safe probably just to remove this
I
now
think
at
we
this
could remove
point?
that one. I'll bring it back, what's on the agenda.
When
we
you get
it
something?
Comes about. Additionally, hopefully if I hear something out of the state on this, I'll bring that back next week. If not, I'll wait until after, probably the first or second week of the year.
Okay.
See what they give me for a response.
Sounds good.
All right, any
All
questions?
right. No other questions?
So
Thank you.
the team assisting up in Day County with
Oh.
the search.
We are. They've investigated some more and they requesting us again to come back probably after the snow. Let's decided to see if we can dial in a little more on a search area.
Great.
In conjunction with the Civil Air Patrol out of Sioux Falls,
Yeah.
which I think has been media.
Todd App, yeah.
Yep, Todd is who I've worked with.
Great. Thank you.
You bet.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks for doing that. Hopefully they'll be able to locate her. All right, item number 7, action to approve shift differential of 50 cents per hour for part-time correctional officers and sheriff's department employees.
I'll make a motion.
All
to
right, we
approve.
got a motion by Van Duzen.
Mhm.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Got a second. I don't know, Natalie, do you want to come up and just kind of give a little? And then we'll just have you stay up for that item number 8 too, if there's anything different on the life insurance policy.
Yeah, so this came out,
Bunch of- yeah.
thank you. This item came out as part of the negotiations this year, if you remember. Currently, our full-time employees are the only ones that receive a shift differential for working the evening, overnight shift, I guess, is the hours which is specified out. And so the thought was that the part-time staff that do the same work could receive, so the full-time employees currently have an hour or $1 per hour, excuse me, is their shift differential. So this would be half of that, 50 cents.
Thank you for the refresher.
Yeah. I saw the blank look for a second.
Yeah, we
Even with
talked
the
about it.
mask
It's been a bit.
Did we ever do
Yeah,
a
that's-
cost differential as far as, what this is gonna cost the county? Do we have
I
any
don't
idea?
believe we did an estimate on
I don't
that.
remember seeing one. I just.
There's no way to estimate it right now. That's not
Sure.
something we've tracked.
Yeah,
We could look at just like what the hours were that our staff put in this year
yeah,
is kind of a general, but it'd be
that's fine.
a very rough guess.
We approved it, or we suggested it, I guess.
Any other comments, questions? We ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. All right, item number 8, action to approve employee life
you
insurance
want this
policy
one?
change.
I have some notes on mine. Let me just grab it quick, sorry. Okay, this came up as well as part of negotiation. So our current Benefit amount for all full-time employees is $25,000. This is through RISD Insurance. And so we had reached out to the agent, Roger, and talked about some options on switching policies, switching carriers, doing some different things. We are currently with Reliance Standard, and this would be who this would stay with. But switching from a $25,000 benefit to a $50,000. There's some rates on page 5 of this proposal. And the monthly premium, and then Cindy had asked for the cost per employee, which is not on there, and that's $8.25 per employee, which puts the annual cost, if you just figure that up, based on 94 employees, which could fluctuate, but that's what we're at now, at $9,306. Which I believe we're at about 6,000 currently. Cindy, does that sound right to you?
Yeah, it could be slightly less because I think we have, it's immaterial. We have one employee who is over the age threshold, I think, and maybe a lower
Yep,
rate.
that would
but-
still stay, that 65 is still an age threshold,
Is
I
it?
think.
Okay,
in this.
well, and I'm not sure what the age
Yeah.
is, so, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We got a motion by Gable,
Second.
second by Waterman. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
And this is to increase the policy from 25,000 to 50.
50,000, correct, for
Right.
all regular full-time.
And it will be effective, I believe,
February 1st,
February
we talked about,
1st.
right?
So I think we pay it out with January payroll. I don't know if we ever got an answer on that, but
He
I
did
believe
reply
that's
and
right.
say the January payment was for the January premium, I think is what he said on that one email.
okay.
So you pay the month out?
So January, when it gets paid, will still be at the old
Okay,
25,
all
I
right,
think.
sounds good.
And then
Yep.
February
We'll go
will
to
be
the
at the
new
new rate.
Okay, all right.
And this is a 2-year, 24-month rate guarantee too on there. We talked about that.
And how long has it been? I mean, the other amount has been in place
Oh,
forever.
long time, yeah. I could not tell you how long.
And just so everybody knows, that's for basic life and accidental death and
Yes.
dismemberment
Yes,
policy.
Yep.
Hopefully, nobody needs to use it,
Yeah.
for sure.
And it is not, as far as I'm aware, it is not transferable to take with you when you leave the county's employment. So
That's correct.
when you're done, it
The
ends.
term.
Yes.
Right. All right. Any other questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Natalie. Okay, we'll move then to item number 9, action to approve a letter of agreement with First District for administrative and technical assistance services in the areas of zoning and drainage. And Luke, you would like to give a little explanation on that?
Sure, I will. I'm really going to, good morning, commissioners. Sorry, I forgot to salute you. Luke Muller, as you said, I will just briefly point out and get into, obviously, this is a contract that has frankly not changed much over the last 15 years. Obviously, the amount has changed, but other than that, the only thing we've really added going over the last 15 years has been, answering some questions regarding drainage and licensing when someone needs to bore underneath a road and going through that process. Otherwise, same questions, same contract is in place. The only real thing that the thing that usually comes up for questions is there a change in fee or hours or anything like that? The answer is no. The amount of time is in item 2I. It's provide a minimum 500 hours, maximum 600 hours. I know we've run into cases where we've had to go over, and as long as we didn't have to ask for a budget supplement, that's usually been okay, because usually if we need more hours, that means we've got more work going on, more permits, that sort of thing, as we had this year and last year. The other thing, as far as value or cost, we budgeted last year assuming that we would keep the cost the same, and so we honored that within this agreement, and so held the same value as we have as far as dollars per hour, $48 an hour still. And then as of now, mileage would be at federal mileage rate for next year, which of course, after I sent this to Cindy, the mileage rate changed. So I think I've got that up to date for 56 cents a mile going into the start of the year at least. So I don't know, are there any questions, comments, anything like that you have for me?
Luke, and this is, maybe I'm getting the cart ahead of the horse here, but as I was reviewing the annual report, your annual report, and what we've been doing with First District, which, by the way, I appreciate everything that you folks do. We depend heavily on your ability to consult us and work with us. We've had a tremendous amount of influx in permits and revenue coming into to that department. Could you give us a paper trail? Where is this money going? Money that we've collected on building permits and so on. Just follow, so we're all abreast of what we know what's going on.
Sure, I will just I'll give you the depth of my knowledge on that, and it's pretty limited. Basically, the ordinance calls for that to be deposited into the general fund, and that's am I right on that, Cindy, as far as where that line's
Correct, yep,
And that it all goes into the general fund. Is that correct?
that's correct.
Nothing goes into the highway department or nothing.
Nope.
Yep. And that's what I wanted to clarify for sure, that if it's not piecemeal down.
Yeah, good point. And I think for all practical purposes, the main thing that I'll point out is that we don't have a basket that we have sitting in the office just stacked with cash in there. It's going back to the general fund. So
you don't have a pop fund there, huh?
No, I don't.
I'll make a motion to approve this letter of agreement.
Okay, have a motion by Gable.
Second.
Second by Van Duzen. Any other questions, comments? Yeah, and like those, the building permits for the wind towers, that's gonna pretty much be done with now.
Well, here's an interesting number. In 2017, we collected just over $20,000 in building permits. 2018, just over 25,000. 2019, 234,000. So far this year, 185,000.
Wind towers are a lot of that.
Yeah, it is.
Yes,
Oh.
yep.
So I would just like to piggyback, Madam Chair, if I could,
Yes.
on what Myron said there with how much we appreciate the partnership between First District and Codington County, Luke. And, you guys always do a great job taking care of zoning issues for us and helping us out with that. And so thank you very much. And I'm proud to support this.
And the reason I asked my question is that back in 17, 20,000, we never really, 20,000, we didn't ask too many questions, but now all of a sudden when it's 234,000, then the people start to wonder, where's all this money going, And just to clarify, and I appreciate that. Thank you, Cindy.
All right, any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Luke, did you have anything else for the board this morning?
Well, I'll get into that report just a little bit more. I know you touched base on it, some of the information that's within it here just a few minutes ago, but I'll just kind of dive into this relatively briefly. And I've gone to more or less a revenue report. I mean, I think that to a degree, the expense report, I know you follow quite well, and I can always put those together too. But I think from a standpoint of knowing where the county's at as far as building is some of the primary value. You already accounted for some of the questions and answered, where we're at for how much has come in for building permits. But a couple of things I do want to underscore, and they're related to what we had talked about. First of all, overall, I wanted to point out total number of building permits we issued this year were 152. However, 72 of which were for wind towers. And then of the remaining 80, a couple of those do include, shops and certain towers ancillary facilities for those wind farms as well. But again, 72 were for wind towers. If you look at the trend lines, or at least that blue chart that's on there, or the black with blue line in there, you can see that the 152 puts us higher than we would generally. We only had 153 in 2008, which was a high commercial year in which we did individual structures for some things. Bottom line is we did a lot of building permits. Last year we did more building permits, but again, I want you to see, I took all of those out of this chart because it doesn't feel like apples to apples. I think once this is in our rear view mirror, I'll probably put those back in the future. But I just kind of wanted to show you that this is more of what we've got from our locals getting building permits. So what you can see in there is, as far as number of building permits issued outside, once I subtract the 72 wind towers out of there, it was 80 building permits. It's not to say, like I said, I think you get the point there. Year before was 106 again, and I think that a couple of those items, they just kind of have shifted where some of the builders are working on certain things. It shouldn't come as any surprise that we had less building permits this year, given that a lot of people were really questioning what was going to happen in the beginning of building season from March until about June. We had construction going on, but a lot of it was do it yourself and decks and things like that. The other thing I want to point out is that while we had 80 building permits, which I would say is probably down about 33% in the general population, we did have a trend line. We held relatively close to the trend line, again, taking out for the wind towers. And you can see that 12,202,000 as far as construction value. If you follow the trend line going back to 2004, it holds pretty close to that trend line. So again, the value held relatively stable. However, it's interesting to note that we had 9 new residences. That was down. I would say typically we have closer to 15. And so again, the idea that we kept that value up is pretty impressive through that. In the end, though,
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but is it safe to say that the projects were bigger projects then? Fewer projects?
It is. I think one of the things that we got to keep in mind, though, is that in there are a couple of larger buildings that were what I would call ancillary to the wind projects. A couple of $200,000 to $500,000 structures that were ancillary to it that boosted that with a couple of shots in the arm. But a lot of home remodels, and not home remodels, but additions onto homes and things like that went into that. But again, I keep on talking about these values, but I mean, when it comes right down to it, our total value of construction, when you drop the wind towers in, was 154,602,000. So again, that's a lot. I just tried to work this so that we can handle it. But yeah, that's where it's definitely bigger projects going on. Total fees from building permits. Cindy gave you the updated number. This was before a few more recent permits have come in, but I showed it at 184,000, with 164,000 of which coming from wind towers as estimates. The construction values for these two pie charts, I kept in the total value for construction value. I mean, it just shows that in the joint jurisdiction, 2.2 million doesn't look like a lot. When you take out that amount with the wind towers again and pull it back down to, what was it, 22 or total construction value of 12 million, that turns the joint jurisdiction area and building permits down to about 16%. Generally, we're closer to 20%, maybe 22. And so that tells me that we had a little less building activity closer to town. Again, that doesn't surprise me given that the residential nature of that versus the ag sector that's probably carrying us outside of that joint area. Building permit fees, you can again see, I had that chart into there accounting for where we're getting the values. if you want to scroll down, Commissioner Gable, down to the next page, these two charts here really just show the Board of Adjustment actions as far as what's gone on. We didn't hold any special meetings this year. We've been trying to decrease those. And I'm not going to lie, it comes a little bit from, thank you for the glowing comments, by the way, earlier, but it does come a little bit from the aspect of trying to workflow things out of here. We're not opposed to doing special meetings. However, it gets a little bit difficult from a workflow, not only from our standpoint, but when you're talking about volunteers sitting on a board. I know our board members are well aware of that. Our county commissioners are aware of the amount of time our board puts in. Just because you see a decrease in numbers doesn't mean they weren't busy. Obviously, we had new challenges trying to learn how to use Zoom for meetings and doing that. However, I think save one time where I kept on having us get kicked off about every 30 minutes. It's been a pretty smooth deal having Zoom meetings. But again, you see our permits processed 35 overall, which seems like a relatively low number, except for when you think about the fact that the whole point here is that we're trying to keep people from asking permission to break the law, which is what a variance is. So we have less of those. And then the conditional use permits, we had 12 of those, which are just special permits that go before the board. So overall fees, this was just an estimate based on what's into there. So bottom line is, looking at that chart, you can see our total number of building permits, how that breaks down. And then at the bottom of that chart, you just see kind of how we've had that breakdown. Dark green is the conditional uses for the overall part of the county. The light blue is the variances for the overall part of the county. And then yellow is conditional uses in the joint jurisdiction, and light green is the variances in the joint jurisdiction. The bulk of those variances were related to farmstead exemptions, just to create lots that meet the criteria already established by ordinance. And so the only thing that I want to put on a cap on this whole discussion is that when it comes down to it, we just talked about the overall revenue that has come in as far as building permits, obviously substantially higher than the operating budget for the department at this time. While I'm happy with that as a zoning officer, that the department is able to be self-funded as far as that goes, or self-sustaining. I just kind of be advised that with our permit fees, as far as where they're at, we're probably looking at, if trend lines continue and we don't have any wind towers, we're probably looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of $40,000 operating budget, and probably closer to about 30,000 in permits coming in next year. So just kind of, unless we change some fees, that's probably where we're going to be. So that's an estimate. That's all that I've got, but I just kind of want to go through some of those numbers for you.
All right, thanks, Luke. Does anyone else have any questions,
Good
comments?
report.
Yeah.
Good report.
Thank you all, and have a happy new year.
Yeah, same to you. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
All right, we will move on then to item number 11, action to revise wording of the ICAP agreement for clarification. Lee, I'll maybe just let you touch on that.
Yeah, so Arlene's on the line too, but I'll
Okay.
go ahead and make the motion to make these changes. You see it in the packet, but essentially it's not really changing anything that's going on. It's just putting a more clarifying language into the agreement that we approved a couple months, but about a month ago, I think. Key point is it doesn't actually change the term of the agreement. That remains the same, but we just wanted to make sure that it was clear to folks. And this is actually, it was ICAP that came to Brenda and me. Wanted to make sure that it was clear to folks that when the ICAP is in our spaces doing ICAP stuff, that doesn't get billed to the county. So that's probably the main thing there. And so my motion is that we approve these changes to clarify the meaning of the document.
Second.
Got a second by Van
And then-
Dusen.
Maybe we can give Arlene a little bit of time to
Yep.
get
And we did change the up to, because if there aren't, before it read that 19 was but we wanted it up to, because if it isn't the workload, then there's no point of having somebody just sit there. But Arlene, would you just state your name and your position, and if there's anything you want to add?
Hi, good morning. I'm Arlene Weirheim, the Chief Operating Officer for Interlakes Community Action. And I think Lee summed it up. We just wanted it to have a clearer definition of, of course, if they're working on ICAP, we would fund that out of the fund that they're taking applications for.
I kind of point out one other thing that was in the discussion talking about this. As Brenda pointed out, it says up to 19 hours. I think we kind of understood that was it, but we're putting that, making sure that's there. And then the one thing that's, I guess, a slight change is we talked about a little bit about data tracking and added that underlying bullet that says, so ICAP's going to help us track data for those 3 bullets. The first one, the one we added though is the number of applications by program and agency served at the welfare office. So that I think is going to be very helpful. So we'll see.
I do just have a question on that. What, you meet every Tuesday? Is that right?
Yes, correct.
And which, would it be like the second Tuesday you'd like that report by, just so we kind of have a deadline?
I think it has been monthly in the past, but I think there's some flexibility I would think if a particular week of the month works better.
Okay.
Then
we can kind of target the second Tuesday of the month. That gives us a little time to get it together.
Yeah. Okay.
So then we'll add that on the monthly reports.
It'd be in the welfare.
With the welfare,
Yeah.
and then, so will ICAP give that report, or will that be handed off then to?
Welfare report is the first Tuesday of the month.
Okay, well.
When do they do?
The first Tuesday.
Welfare is the first Tuesday, correct?
Okay.
Is that going to give you enough time?
Which has caused a problem before
with
getting, so if you somebody just needs to direct me to move that to the second Tuesday of the month, then.
Do we need to take action to do that?
No,
I think that would make sense.
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, I think that would make sense, because it's what essentially happens is we get, reports that have month-old data, and that's common. I mean, there are other offices that are in that boat. So, so if we can make it more current, that would be, especially as we're looking at these changes, it would be good to do that.
Okay.
So
if everyone's okay with that, then.
Is there another department that we could swap out? Let that be, that.
The only 2 that are on the second Tuesday are myself and Shauna.
So those are
it's
usually
not
pretty quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine.
Yeah.
All right, we'll do that then. Any other questions, comments? Are we ready to vote? Well, this is just a revise. It's not changing anything other than some wordage and clarification. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. All right. You have anything, Arlene, that you wanted to say besides, or?
I do not. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you
Arlene.
for joining us. All right, let's move on then to item number 12, action to designate future building funds. Item number 12.
This is action that we always take at the end of the year. Per South Dakota law, we are allowed to carry 40% surplus cash for the coming year, based on the general fund budget, which in this case is just over $12 million. 40% would be 4.8 million that we can hold in surplus cash. So that allows us to put cash into our future building projects. It's assigned money for that purpose. It can be changed during the year if you see fit, or if a need arises. So my recommendation is to put our surplus at 35%, which would put $10,398,298.98 into the future building projects. And this is to make us in compliance with Department of Legislative Audit.
Second.
We have a motion by Johnson, second by Waterman. What does that bring our future building projects total to then?
That amount.
That is
That is
okay.
the whole amount, yes.
So-
Last year it was 7.6 million. And then with the influx of money that we had from the CARES Act, that boosts us up to 10.3.
So I think the key thing that what Cindy's recommendation is. So the 4.8 million is 40%.
4.8 is, and because all of this is based on estimates
Right.
for the
no, I
month
get
of
that.
December, I need to err on the side of caution to make sure we're under 40%. So
Right.
that's why I went
So the
with
recommend, so
35.
and what is the 35% amount?
35 is
That's it.
4.2 million.
That's 4.2. Okay.
Yep.
You probably said that.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, motion carries. All right, item number 13, action to approve agreement with SDHDA, South Dakota Housing, for Extended Cares Act housing funds. And we have our interim welfare. And I'll let you introduce yourself. Welcome. You haven't.
Yep, the blue button. Yep.
Yep.
You're on.
All right, good morning.
morning.
My name is Carrie Craybrink. I was originally hired to be the welfare assistant back in July and just kind of filling in until we find a permanent position. So with the passing and the signing of the new stimulus package, this creates two opportunities for the welfare office to be able to help people of our community that have been affected by COVID-19. The current CARES, which we're an administrator through the South Dakota Housing, they've actually, with the new CARES Act, have extended it to December 31st, 2021. So right now, statewide, they were given 10 million. We've spent about 5. So that leaves another 5 that we can still go. So that'll continue. Here in the countywide, there's been 140 applications that have come in. Our office has processed 111 of those. We have funds paid out of a little over $181,000 that we've helped people with rent, mortgage, and utility. So I was hoping to have a contract to give to you. They're just going to extend it. As far as I know, everything stays the same. The only thing that'll change is the expiration date. Instead of it being this year, it'll be next December. But with it taking longer to get it signed, they haven't had a chance to get the new contract out to everybody. So I just wanted to, I do have the old contract. If you want me to, I can give you a copy, or I can email it out to you if you need to look at it again, or just wait till I get the new one.
Right.
To have that. The only other thing that we would have to do is, looks like we had to provide some insurance certificates, a work comp one, and then a general liability. We'll have to get those renewed. One expires January 1st, and the other one's like March 1st. So we'll just, for the new contract, we'll just have to get those extended. But really, that's the only thing on that one. The new one that they passed is called the Emergency Rental Assistance. As of right now,
Is this item number 14?
yeah, this is like,
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, right.
So
we
maybe
don't-
we'll take action on that first one and then we'll move
Well,
on
we
to
don't have an agreement. You
We
probably
don't have
should
an,
just
we
wait.
probably
Should
should
wait.
wait. It's just gonna be like
information.
information. So like when they do send out the extended contract, or the revised one with the new date, are we gonna want to continue with that program?
Right.
By
And
the way,
so
that's good information.
Yeah,
are you
Yeah.
able to continue taking applications now? Is that process, or have they kind of halted it?
the deadline for the applications for this one, was December 18th.
Right.
And so right now I have 7 applications that are still in process. Everything else has been processed,
Okay.
and paid out.
So until we have a new agreement, you can't process those. Is
I
that-
can still continue to process
Oh,
them.
you can.
Yeah.
You just can't pay, you just can't.
We just can't do anymore. They'll open up,
Oh,
they're hoping to open up the application process again, the first part of January.
okay.
And so, yeah.
So do we
just-
need the agreement in hand before we approve it? Or, I mean, I guess, what do you want to do? Do you want to approve it without seeing it?
Well,
I think we should probably have it in hand before we
Yeah, I
approve it,
All right.
And like I said, the only thing that's gonna change.
just to
is
make
the
sure that there's no
expiration
changes.
All right, I will
date.
just note in the minutes that no action was taken as the agreement has been delayed.
When do we anticipate receiving that?
We have another conference call today at 3, so hopefully we'll get some more information and I'll be able to let you know. As of right now, we don't know. It just kind of depends. Like I said, it just got delayed with
Yeah.
with the
delay of getting it signed.
I can just add it to the January 5th agenda in case we have it then.
Yeah,
So
all
would,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, so say we don't get the, say they, start it up again at the first of the year, which I don't know how likely that is between the first of the year and the 7th when our first meeting is, but, can people still submit applications during that time?
They
Or
cannot
it'd
right
just
now,
be, it'd
no.
just be like,
It's
shut
started-
down.
Closed
I mean,
December
it's
18th.
closed right now.
It's the 5th.
You're looking at
I'm looking at
2020.
2020.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we
I'm
can-
The little one at the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So,
Thank
Oh,
you.
apparently today, people are finding out about this opportunity, that 140 have applied. But, how are you going to, how are they going to find out that it's going to be continued? I mean, how do you get the word out to these people?
a lot
No
of
problem.
a lot of them already know. A lot of them have been calling and emailing already. The ones that we've helped so far, they kind of follow the news and stuff. We will probably put out another news release. I'm assuming that the governor will do that. We don't, like I said, I don't have all the details, so I don't know. Last time they printed up a press release that we sent out to all of our partners. Letting them know.
They're pretty good about letting the public know when
Yeah.
those programs come.
Yeah. So, but like I said, a lot of them I've gotten, every day I get at least, 2 to 5 emails and a couple phone calls asking if, that when the application process could be opened back up again.
So I wonder how they're going to do some of these that have already been approved and qualified. Are they going to have to go through the whole process again or?
It is going it depends. So there's going to be 2 different, so kind of to get into the new one, this one is called the emergency rental assistance. We don't know all the details because we don't know who's going to administer it. We're thinking that it's going to be South Dakota Housing again. And then we can be a
Probably have
partner
the
with them as
same.
well again. The eligibility guidelines for the second one, for the new one, is different. The income guidelines are lower. So this one is going to be aimed more towards like the lower income, being designed to help those that are at risk of homelessness and housing instability. So your lower income people. And this one actually expires September 30th of 2021. So sooner than the other one. Or when funds run out.
So is there an agreement that should be coming on that
There will be
also?
an agreement.
And we
coming
don't
on
have that
one.
yet
We
either.
know, like who's administering it, how much do we actually get?
And it requires the
Um,
board to accept
Right.
and agree. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
I mean, I think it's a benefit for us to admit, if we get the opportunity to be an administrator of both programs, because then that way if somebody comes into our office or calls us, and they apply, they're gonna apply and I believe it's gonna be the same application system. But if they don't we're gonna try and get them to qualify in the new program, because there'll be a little bit more funds in there. And then if they don't, so somebody like the middle income comes in and, they were affected by COVID, then we have both programs that we can work
So
with.
none
That
of
they
this
fall
money is
into.
running through the county.
No.
We
Correct.
send the applications on to somebody who's administering it, so none of it's
Yeah.
passed. Okay.
So
passed through.
we process them, we approve, we do all the,
Okay.
verifying and the follow-up, and then I send a report every Monday to South Dakota Housing.
Okay,
And then they cut the funding, the checks, from there.
it simplifies it a lot on our end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pennington County
yes.
actually disperses it. They're the
Yeah.
only county
Yes.
that, and that,
And
Pennington.
with
Okay.
the current CARES, we get, an administration fee, which I think we've gotten a check for.
Yes,
For the
yes.
first 2
Your
months
hour,
already.
the hours that your
Yep.
office put in, we are paying
And
those
I do have
admin
the
fees,
report
yes.
ready to send in, for December's hours. I'll send that in at the end of the week.
For audit purposes, it's just much simpler if
Yep.
it's run through a central
Mhm.
agency.
Right, so.
Right.
And that's kind of what we talked to South Dakota Housing about doing that, because at the time that this program came out, you were in the midst of election and, end of the year and everything. And we wanted to be able to help, but knew that we couldn't run the funds out of it, right? Okay, so we'll ask for that same,
So is this another item that just needs to be continued?
it just
over?
needs to be continued. I just
Okay.
wanted to let you know,
Okay.
like I said, I was
Alright.
hoping to have one contract at least, but at least this kind of gives you an idea of kind of what's going on.
Okay.
And,
Carrie, I have a question. You mentioned 140 applications that we've received. Of those, 111 have been processed.
no, so 140 countywide.
Okay.
applications.
Mhm.
Our office, so in Codington County, we were processing them and so was ICAP. Cindy and ICAP was also processing them. So out of that 140 that were county residents,
Mhm.
we've processed 111 of those applications. Or are in process, because out of that 111, I still have 7 that I'm still working on, still waiting for documents and stuff. So yeah, 140 is countywide. We've actually processed in the welfare office 111. So you
So-
get the bulk of them.
And ICAP processed the others, is that correct?
Yep, I have processed the other ones.
Oh,
and
I
then there
see.
was a
Okay,
couple-
so we're not,
Yeah.
we're not sitting on
No, right,
applications.
no,
That was
I'm
my
sorry.
question.
Yeah, no, I haven't processed them.
Okay.
A couple of them because we're doing mortgages as well.
Mhm.
Some of them were South Dakota housing loans. So they had a couple of them that they did as well. So,
They've all been processed through.
yep, I have, out
Okay.
of that 140, there's only 7 that have not.
Gotcha.
Because
Okay.
Codington County Welfare is first, so then you have that, and then any ones that you're not taking, then ICAP can step in.
Yeah,
and-
ICAP was pulling at first too, you know, so whoever went on. I think what ICAP was doing is they were looking at the list of people that were applying and the ones that they had worked with in the past. So they had their information and they were pulling those. And then once now this last kind of month, because Minnehaha got inundated with so many applications, ICAP was hoping more was down there and, you know, our office was doing, we were able to handle all of the Codington County ones, so.
Yes, at my last ICAP meeting, so Arlene gave the report that statewide, total of 2,104 applications had been taken for the CARES Act program, began October 23rd, 2020. Of those applications, 1,160 are from ICAP's service area. So that's like the 7
Yeah.
county regions.
So now, the report that we received yesterday, there's been a total of 4,220 applications statewide.
So that really doubled.
And like I said, out of the 10 million, it's just a little over 5 million that has been spent statewide. So the need is there, and I don't know if it's gonna go away.
Well,
anytime soon,
They
so.
had 6 to 18 staff people were assisting, so
Yeah.
just on the ICAP side. So yeah, it was really
Yeah,
pretty
Yeah.
intense for
Yeah.
going from 2 to 4 in that
Yeah.
amount of time.
yeah.
So, very good. Well, then I guess we will just,
Carry those items over.
yeah, put them on for next, whenever we get that information.
Yeah,
We'll just,
like I said, we'll have a meeting today at 3 and we'll see if we can get some more information and then, a little bit more of a, you know,
Right.
timeline of what's gonna happen, but they were even talking though, that new application process probably won't be up and running until, you know, I would say maybe the second week of January, because they're gonna do a little bit of tweaks to it, make it a
With-
little bit more user friendly. It's pretty easy to do now, but they're gonna do tweaks that they're gonna do to it.
right. Well, changing that income level will be,
Yep,
because they really did,
Yeah.
were pretty lenient on the first one with
yeah.
people that
Yeah,
were
yeah,
able to
they had
qualify.
it, the AMI was like 115%, now they're lowering it to 80. So it's really aimed more at the ones that are
Really struggling.
really struggling and at risk of.
So as you heard in our previous discussion here, your reporting date will now move to the second Tuesday.
Sure.
And so at that time, you should have more information.
Yeah,
on
hopefully
this
by,
at
yeah,
that time.
absolutely.
So
We'll
look
have
forward
it
to
on,
hearing.
we'll have it on the 5th, though. If you have that contract by then, we can just get it
Yeah.
approved. And
Get it on the agenda.
all right.
Sounds good. You're doing a
Thank
great
you.
job.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Very
thanks.
good.
We're hanging in there.
Yes, you are. You're doing
Thank
fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 15, action to supplement budgets with commissioner contingency. Which ones do we have this week? Cindy?
I just left that on there in case anything came up in the week from last week and nothing has, so we are good to skip
Good
over that one.
Good.
Yep.
All right, item number 17, action to approve claims for payment.
I think we have 2 of those. Oh, maybe 3. One I did not see. Okay, the first one is our monthly 911 surcharge collections for the month of October to remit to the city of Watertown in the amount of $22,504.99. And then we have a renewal with the South Dakota Department of Health for our campground license of $175. And the final one is the finish up of the fob door system that we did with Peters Distributing Incorporated, and that was for the government buildings budget, $22,852.57. And I believe access to all doors now are with fobs.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Gable, second by Waterman. Any further discussion, questions?
Cindy, just out of curiosity, that license renewal or that renewal for the Department of Health, what is that about?
Campground license.
I'm just curious. Is that a yearly thing?
It
we
is a
do?
yearly thing. Yep, it is. It started a few years ago. It's with the South Dakota Department of Health, safefoodinspection.com. It's not that we serve food, but since we are a campground, we are required to
have
carry
it.
this license. Is that me
Okay.
whistling?
No, it's just turn it down just a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Any other questions? I'll wait till Lee sits down. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that motion carries. Item number 18, action possible discussion on COVID-19 practices, procedures, policy. Okay.
Hello, commissioners.
Good morning.
The stimulus bill that was just passed and signed into law includes in all of the portion, from what I can understand, I have not read it all, a section that would allow you, the opportunity businesses, organizations to continue the emergency paid sick leave that was in place this year. So if you remember, we talked about the FFCRA and it included the family medical leave portion and included the paid sick leave portion, and that was mandated through the end of this year. So the new law, the new bill has the sick leave portion, as I understand, not the family medical leave portion, but it is voluntary for businesses and organizations, whether they want to offer that going forward. It's set through like March 31st or March 15th, something like that, sometime in March. From what I have read, it would not mean new coverage for people. It's like an expansion of what was already. So if you already used your sick leave that was available this year, it's used up, you wouldn't get new through March. The main benefit is for businesses that are using, because you can apply for payroll tax credits. So if you paid out the sick leave under this provision, then when you went to file your quarterly taxes, whatever, you could put in there credits on your payroll taxes for having paid that out. So that's, I think, partly why they continued to offer it, was for the organizations and businesses that have been claiming their payroll tax credit. So you can decide whether or not you want to expand that through March. Again, it's voluntary. I personally feel like the county does offer really good benefits already for sick leave and that you wouldn't need to do so, but just bringing it to your attention, I guess.
So it's something we can put on the agenda for January 5th, or I guess it's on here all the time.
Yeah, it's on here with the COVID. So
when do we need to make a decision for sure?
well, if you want it, I mean, what was currently out there will expire now December 31st. So if you wanted to extend that, you probably need to vote on it next meeting and offer it further. But like I said, I mean, you do have good sick leave. You did give everybody the COVID leave already. I don't think it's necessary, but.
So if you don't intend to adopt it, you would not need to take any action.
Yes.
Let it go.
Okay.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All right.
Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you.
All right. Well, is anyone willing to make a motion on that? And if nobody is, I guess we'll just. Let it
So
expire.
just to clarify so Natalie, we can, if we want to do it next week, if we think about it, and we still want to do it next week, we can do it. Okay. So, all right.
Okay. Well,
Yeah, I don't feel like, I would want to study it a bit more,
Okay.
so.
well, let's just leave it then. And when it comes up next week, if someone and wants to make that motion, I guess that will be their opportunity. Item number 19, action to approve automatic budget supplements.
Nothing for 19, 20, or 21.
All right, how about 22? Any possible commissioner quorums? Don't think we do. Item number 23, old business. All right,
back to you today. Sorry. On an old business item, the welfare director position that's currently posted, we had listed through December 31st, which will be this week. We have gotten very few applications, or at least that I have seen. The only ones that I have actually received so far is through what we posted on Indeed. The ones that were supposed to be going through the job service, I have not seen any. I can contact them for an update, but last I knew, which was last week, they hadn't gotten any. So I would recommend that we extend it through January 15th to allow people that maybe have been on holiday or something like that. And
I'd
looking
extend it through January. Well, extend it until filled. Can we can do that, can't we?
You don't even need to take any action because you never did set a date.
Okay.
There was no closing date
There
on
was
the
no
announcement.
closing
On
date
the
taken,
minutes.
the action, there was no
Okay.
action taken for a
Okay.
closing
Open
date,
until
so-
filled.
Okay.
Well, the one thing with that then is if you have to kind of keep, are you gonna wait for the next, I suppose.
So then I guess you have to decide, like, where you want to advertise again, then further, if there's other sources, if you want to expand the budget for advertising, hiring. We did 2 in the PO and 2 in the Coteau Shopper. And then, put it up on Indeed, sent it out to Chris through the county.
Cindy, if we advertise or keep advertising this, do we also have to keep advertising it in the PO and the shopper, or is twice enough?
No, there are no requirements where we need to advertise for employment. It's not like a bid law or anything like that. We're not.
I think
required.
we should invest and send it out blanket the Midwest.
I'd say, I
and
don't
get
know if there would be
applications that,
Sioux
I don't know
Falls,
if
that
Sioux
area,
Falls
or
and Fargo and,
or the Valley Shopper up in the
City.
Northeast, or.
you know.
I don't know how much we're gonna get on, but if there are agencies that take care of this, Troy, that would get us out there farther.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think, I think there definitely is. I think hitting the state job service is big, that's posted statewide, but if they're not looking for jobs in Watertown, they're not going to know about it,
Right.
So,
Yeah, like the online tools, would be the better ones, but.
and I think personally, and this is kind of, maybe I'm squirreling a little bit, but I think we need to set a closing date. So that we can move this process forward, because we're going to get into the new year and we need to have some answers on what we're going to do there. So I would recommend that we close it on January 15th.
And then kind of look at it at that point, see what we have, I guess, and if we have to extend it again. but-
Because the people that got their applications into us did so before the deadline of December 31st. So that's not real fair to them, but.
Just a thought on that, Troy, if we're gonna reach out farther, there's not very much time, and I do agree we should have a settlement, but I would think that January 31st would probably be a little bit more appropriate.
Okay, I'm okay with that, whatever.
And I would live with that too. We can do that. See if we get any more.
That's a Sunday.
Well, but if we find somebody by January 15th, then we have to wait another couple of weeks.
Right.
So.
Well, I don't know, it doesn't hurt. I mean, if we
2
set it for the
weeks.
15th, and then if we don't still have what we think, the numbers, we could
Yeah,
then extend it
so-
again.
so
But if we
yeah.
have enough on the 15th,
We
then
change
there's,
the website posting and talk to job service.
I would be more in favor of
Yeah.
going
Find
on the
some other-
15th,
Yeah.
a little earlier, and then we
Expand
can
our search.
reevaluate.
I like the
Just my
15th
thoughts.
personally.
Sandy, is it possible to throw something in the county comment?
I don't
Is
even know when that's going to be published next, to tell you the truth.
Okay,
It's been really kind of downsized. We used to do it like 4 times a year. We might be at 3. So
okay.
you'd have to check with Chris Jacobson and see when the next publication is coming out.
And she did send it out to the county auditors and welfare directors.
Okay.
So-
Okay.
So she has
And she
gotten
was
that out.
going
And I
to
think she had a couple
receive one?
websites too.
We haven't received,
I
I
can
think
check
I
with
received.
Okay. Yeah,
I
she,
got to call Chris about something else. So
And I think the more places we can blanket with the announcement, the better.
are there any
So-
local radio stations that you'd like to advertise on?
Well, I
or
think the
anything like
media
that?
can maybe write this into a news story.
Okay, that would be good.
Another
We'll
thing
see.
you might want to think about, or somebody might want to review the personnel policy regarding, you have not taken any action to appoint an interim welfare director. there is some language in the personnel policy regarding filling in for a department head. If that department head has gone over a certain amount of time, you might want to review your
Now
personnel
that this is
policy
getting
to
longer
see.
than,
Well, because, but since you have not appointed an interim, I don't know if it applies, because if you, the person taking care of that position is supposed to be paid at a higher rate of pay. So you might want to look at that policy and see what it says regarding, to make sure you're complying with our policy on filling in for a department head.
Okay.
Will you do
Yes.
that?
yes.
Thank you.
Another thing that I would like us to consider is the county requirement of requiring our folks to live in Codington County to be
We
employed by
don't.
the county?
We don't
Okay.
right
It says
now. We did
preferred on the
change that a
posting,
few
but not
years ago.
required. I think.
Okay.
I think that's in the
Okay.
policy also.
Yeah, the
We-
job
we
posting,
changed
I
it
know
a
it
few years
says,
ago because it seemed like we were tying our hands on getting
And I know the city,
people we needed for positions.
yeah, and the city had that, requirement when I first started, it was 10 miles from the city center.
I
And then
believe
they
our
extended it to
policy-
35 miles. and
Right,
now
I think
don't
our
know.
policy says residency is preferred, but there are exceptions.
But it's not
but not
required.
required.
Right,
Yeah,
yes,
that's the way
something
the
like
job posting is too.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, all right.
Preferred but not required.
All right, so where are we on the date? I mean,
I like January 15th, that, then we can extend it if we need to,
yeah.
because
we
that
get
way,
there.
And that's just a general,
Consensus
I
session.
was just at the end of the month, but
Yep.
well, yeah, but if we get a good applicant, then it's not fair to
January 20th,
hire.
that's a Wednesday,
that
in
works.
between what you guys said.
January 15th, so
If
Friday by
we go to
5
the
p.m.
15th And we find a good applicant, that applicant has to turn in 2 weeks notice, that means they've got to be here.
February
Johnny
15th.
on the
Well, then it's
spot.
gonna be, yeah, so if we go clear to the 31st and they gotta give 2 weeks, then we're getting halfway into February. So that's why I'd like to kind of stick with the 15th
Yeah.
and reevaluate it if we
But
need
if we
to
were
at that
clear, it
point.
starts on the 30th.
Yeah. Ideally. start with
Well, that's a
six.
Saturday.
Or February
And
1st.
that would give them some
February.
time to think about it, that would give their present employers.
our
some-
policy requires either the 1st or the 15th for start dates.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, the difficulty too is, I mean, you're gonna have to do interviewing and all of that too.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
I'd like to stay with the 15th.
We're
I
still
guess.
looking at mid-February before a start date
Mhm.
with interviews and everything. So
If you find a successful candidate, I think that a start date is something you'll have to negotiate
Mhm.
probably.
Mhm.
If we finally get a candidate, we're gonna hire him on the spot.
So the
Get those
15th, is that the
applications
final
turned
answer?
in.
Okay,
Let's say so.
Let's go
15th
with-
at 5 p.m.
I'll change that, let's say.
sounds good. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Natalie. All right, new business. Anyone have any new business? Anything for the open? I think we have a need for an executive session under our contract negotiations. There's something we need to discuss on that. We have one contract out yet, so.
Make a motion to go into exec.
All right,
So,
got a motion by Van Duzen, second by Gable to go into executive session under number 3. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're in executive session.
You stop the stream. Natalie?
Thanks, everyone.